This is Civics Chapter 5, Section 3, The Powers of Congress. So the legislative branch is, without a doubt, the most powerful branch of the government. The framers of the Constitution made the legislative branch the most powerful for a reason. They thought that the legislative branch was the closest to the people. What we mean by that is that every state and every district of the country gets to choose their own representative. So their voice is being heard in the government through a very direct path. So through a representative or a senator. So an example of this direct path of a citizen getting their voice in the national government is that a citizen, such as in the Pennsylvania 17th district where Parkway is, can call up Representative Connor Lamb, and he can directly tell Connor Lamb his grievance, and Connor Lamb can take that grievance to the U.S. House of Representatives. So see that your voice can be heard through your representative. So the powers of Congress are located in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and all the goals of Congress in the legislative branch are outlined in the preamble of the Constitution. Here's the entire preamble. It's that first paragraph of the Constitution. And what the legislative branch tries to do is to form a more perfect union, keep the states together, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, ensure everybody's happy with their government, provide for common defense. We got to protect the United States from foreign threats, and promote the general welfare of the people. We want people to succeed and be healthy and safe in the United States. That is really the goals of Congress. Also, secure the blessings of liberty, our choice, and our freedoms. Congress has the power to collect taxes. That's one of the things. Without this power, Congress can't really do anything else. That was really the problem with the Articles of Confederation. The national government can collect taxes from the states. They kind of had to rely on the states to give the national government money. This doesn't work because states aren't really going to do that. And without money, you can't really do anything or assist anybody. So collecting taxes is how Congress has the money to do all the things that they want to do to help Americans. An example is, healthcare assistance, Medicare, Medicaid for older people, disabled people. Where does that money come from to pay for those programs? Taxes. So, it's said that the legislative branch, Congress, has the power of the purse. And that means that they have financial approval and final approval of any government spending in the national government. They must present a balanced budget every single year. What's a budget? Plan for raising and spending money. So they have to have a plan to get this money, and they have to have a plan to where this money will be spent. So every year, Congress determines how much money they need to run the government successfully and where that money will go. So how much money will education get? How much money does healthcare need? How much money are we going to dedicate to NASA with the space programs? Interstate highways. How much money do we need for that? So that's all what Congress has to decide. Also, being able to have all the money and decide where the money goes keeps the president in check. The president wants to establish all kind of new programs, but he can't do any of these programs and enact them unless he has some money. First, he has to go ask Congress for approval for money to run his program. So, also, like we said before in the preambles, to provide defense. Congress has the power, is the only branch of government that has the power to maintain an army and navy. Collecting taxes pays for the army and navy. Congress has the only power to declare war on another country, but this hasn't happened officially since World War II, when the Axis powers, when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. That was a direct attack on the United States, so the Congress declared war on Japan. Ever since then, all the wars, Korea, Vietnam, even the World War on Terror, were not officially declared in Congress, but really, it was the president's power to send the army, and then Congress approved to send the army and armed forces into these areas, but not an official act of declaring war has happened since then. So, establishing justice, Congress has the ability to create federal courts. These federal courts decide all matters involving the Constitution, First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, anything like that. So, each district has a set of states and areas. So this is the federal courts is really that next step before the Supreme Court, before it reaches that point. And there are currently 12 districts. And you might be saying, well, there's 11, while the DC is its own district, so that would be 12. Also, in establishing justice, Supreme Court judges are selected by the president, but need to be approved by the Senate to vote. By the Senate vote. So Justice Amy Coney Barrett, she was selected by President Trump, but had to be approved by the Senate, and she was approved with a 52 to 48 majority to have her sworn into office. This was pretty controversial. They thought that since President Trump only had 3 months left in his term, that he should wait and see who was elected next president to make this choice. But the Senate is controlled by the Republicans, and they were able to gain a majority in voting her in. She's actually pretty now. Not a bad choice. Even Democrats don't really mind her all that much. So, but she gets to serve on the Supreme Court for the rest of her life, and the only reason why she was able to be elected on the Supreme Court is that famous Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. So there was an opening, and she was selected to fill up. But the Senate has to vote and agree on the president's choice. So Congress has the power to impeach a government official. So what impeach means is to formally charge a government official of a wrongdoing or criminal act that could lead to their removal from office. So this is just, you're charging, it's almost like being arrested, like the president or a government official is being charged of a wrongdoing or a criminal offense. The whole point is to get them removed from office. So only the House of Representatives can charge someone or impeach someone in political office. But the Senate has the power to put the government official on trial. If the Senate votes that they should be removed and found guilty, they should be removed from office. The ability to impeach President of the United States is another power that Congress has over the executive branch. It kind of checks the president so he just doesn't do what he wants. Only 3 presidents, though, have been impeached and charged of wrongdoing. Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton. That was because he was said to lie to the American people over his relationship with an intern, Monica Lewinsky, and Donald Trump. I know it's this is a whole big thing last year, but none were found guilty. Donald Trump was impeached, but by 230 representatives voted to impeach him against 197 against. But he was charged with an abuse of executive powers. What he did was he forced Ukraine. He held money back from supporting Ukraine unless they gave up government information, about the election. So that's kind of what happened there. Ukraine never budged, but the president stood trial, and the Senate, he was acquitted of all charges. The Senate did not find him guilty enough to be removed from office. So the legislative power specifically listed in the Constitution is actually written in the Constitution are collect taxes, borrow money, regulate trade, make laws, coin money, establish post offices and highways, issue patents and copyrights, declare war, create, maintain, and make rules for the armed forces, make laws for the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C. So this is exactly what is written in the Constitution that the legislative powers can do. But there is this clause, the elastic clause, or the necessary and proper clause, and it's because also in Section 8, there's of the Constitution, it says this: to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foreign powers and all the powers vested by the Constitution in the government of the United States or any department of the office thereof. So what does this mean? This means that the Congress has powers that are not directly written in the Constitution. That's called the necessary and proper clause. And really, an example of that is, you know, here the best way to explain that is an example. So Congress has the power to coin money. That is what is said in the Constitution, but it doesn't really say about building factories or getting hiring workers, but Congress has the power to do that. So it's everything, like they base it off of, okay, we need to do this, but we also need the power to buy land, factory, and to print and everything like that. So whatever the Congress that needs to do that is necessary and proper to carry out new laws, then it's able to do that. But some critics of this is that Congress takes the advantage of this clause and goes above and beyond what they're really allowed to do according to the Constitution. But that's up for the debate. So there are some limits to the power of Congress. The President of the United States is able to veto any law passed by Congress. We've discussed this before. A veto is a constitutional right to reject a decision or law proposal made by Congress. So the judicial branch can check Congress by declaring laws passed by Congress unconstitutional. If Supreme Court declares a law unconstitutional that was passed by Congress, it no longer becomes a law. So the president and the judicial branch can check Congress. Also, Congress cannot suspend the writ of habeas corpus. What is that? Well, habeas corpus is the right of American citizens to have a trial to decide if a law enforcement has enough evidence to keep them in prison. They can't. It really stops from the police from imprisoning people without a reason to imprison them. This is even before their actual criminal trial begins. This is just people. The police, the authorities have to have a reason to arrest you. So this Congress cannot suspend the police just being able to arrest people without cause. So the trial decides, whether law enforcement has enough evidence to keep a citizen in prison. It's usually very quick. Okay, this is what you're being charged for. This is the evidence against you. This is why you're being in prison. But the United States has to allow you to have that. Also, Congress cannot pass ex post facto laws, which these are laws that punish citizens for crimes after laws was passed, after the crime was committed. So you cannot be charged with a crime you did in April if the law was not established until June. So they can't retroactively punish you for a law that you committed before it was even a law. All right, that concludes Chapter 5, Civics, Chapter 5, Section 3, the powers of Congress.